by ChoiceCenter Leadership University is where emotional intelligence meets extraordinary results. Founded in 1998 in Las Vegas, ChoiceCenter has empowered thousands of people around the world to unlock their full potential through experiential trainings and coaching. Here on EQU, we dive into the inspiring stories and transformative journeys from both famous faces and everyday heroes. Graduates who have harnessed emotional intelligence to have transformed their lives in ways that are nothing short of remarkable. From skyrocketing their careers to deepening relationships, balancing creative pursuits with focusing on health, finances, and family. Our guests share the real-world impact of EQ on living a life you author and love. Get ready to be inspired, challenged, and equipped with insights that can serve you to create radical results in your own life. If you're ready to dream, declare, and deliver, let EQU show you what's possible. Welcome back to EQU. Our guest today is someone who has applied emotional intelligence not just to personal growth, but to poker, business, investing, and family. Born to an Iranian immigrant father and raised alongside his brother, a world-renowned professional poker player, Pasha Esfandiary carved his own path, one defined by bold vision, EQ mastery, daily disciplines, and relentless reinvention. During ChoiceCenter's LV122 Leadership Training in 2012, Pasha declared to become a millionaire within 5 years by the age of 33. He has far surpassed that goal, using EQ as both a compass and a catalyst to become a strategist, a storyteller, and a student of life. He and his wife, Jessica, have also recently gone all in on their most important venture yet, raising twin babies, Zoe and Taj.
Pasha is the founder of Evoke Capital, a multi-million-dollar real estate firm. He's the creator of the Road to 100 podcast, and now he's added author to his list of accomplishments with his new book, Raising the Stakes, which is launching on April 22nd. Raising the Stakes blends proven poker strategies with life mastery to teach readers what happens when you play to win, make bold moves, and align your choices with your values. In this episode, we explore how Pasha went from flipping homes to raising $50 million and more, how daily disciplines drive his real-world results, and why sometimes the most powerful move is simply to play the hand you've been dealt. Pasha, you've built a life that's not just successful, but significant. Welcome to EQU.
Thank you for having me, ladies. That was weird to hear about myself like that, but yes, I'm so happy to be here.
Love it, love it,
Oh
love it.
my goodness, love it. Pasha, in your new book, Raising the Stakes, you write about playing the hand that you're dealt. Tell us about the hand you were dealt growing up in Iran, and what do you remember about your father's decision to leave everything behind and bring you and your brother to America?
Wow, that's a loaded question. This is why I see why everyone's cried on this podcast. I mean, so that really is it, right? It's like playing the hand you're dealt. I came here. You guys know a little bit about my story. My dad immigrated here with myself and my brother as a single father, leaving everything behind in Iran. And growing up wasn't easy. I mean, having no mother and growing up in a family where you weren't able to talk about your emotions, being a sensitive kid that I was, you take that trauma in certain ways. And for me, that was depression at one point, suicidal. I almost committed suicide at one point, and really kind of, I feel like fumbling through life. But I always knew that I really wanted a lot more. So it was a really big path to get me to where I wanted. But once I, obviously I'm sure we'll talk about it. Choice was a turning point for me. Is once I started getting the tools of, hey, I didn't go to college. I was a college dropout. Hey, I've been playing poker forever. That really wasn't education. But what can I apply from poker? What have I learned? What life experiences can I use to really create this life that I have? Because I think that's the beautiful thing about creating or entrepreneurship or really anything in life is that you can create whatever you want. So playing the hand that you're dealt is another way to describe it. I grew up as a kid with ADD. It's hard to focus. But when you flip the script of using that as a crutch, you can see all the advantages that ADD can help apply if you know how to utilize it and put the right guardrails in your life. So it's just really maximizing your best attributes and then also just kind of finding ways to minimize your other attributes of yourself.
What do you remember about coming here? Do you remember getting on the plane? What was it like when you landed? What were those early years like?
Those early years were really confusing, honestly. And I'm laughing because it feels so foreign to me. I don't remember getting off the plane. I don't remember much of it. In fact, when I was younger, I really distinctly remember blocking a lot of memories out attached to my mother. And so I don't have memories from my childhood whatsoever until I was about 6, and that's still super murky. And my father also told me for almost a year and a half, maybe even 2 years, I didn't speak. I spoke when I needed to, but I internalized my mother leaving. I just stopped talking. So I don't really remember much of it until about 7 or 8. A lot of my memories are from this point of like, okay, this is my life now. I guess I didn't understand what was happening until about I was 7 or 8. I was like, hey, seeing all my friends with parents and they're happy and everything that's happening. And I think that's when my memory started coming online a little bit and realizing, hey, this isn't normal.
Yeah. And how old were you when you first came here?
If you ask my mother, I was 3. If you ask my dad, I was 2. So I'll say 2.5.
Very young. Very young.
Yeah, very young.
Coming from Iran, where poker is banned, how did you and your brother get into poker as kids?
Well, 100%, it was my brother who got into poker first. He's 5 years older than me, and he also didn't go to college. There was something that happened in both my brother and I where we're both very driven, but I don't think we knew what path we were going to take. So in 2004, my brother had been playing poker for a while, and this is when poker got really big. And he ended up winning a tournament for 1.4 million. And this is the really cool story about it. In that tournament, he didn't tell us. He just showed up to my dad's house with a pile of cash and said, you're retired, which was his dream as a child. I remember him distinctly telling me that time and time again. In 2004, I also was a college dropout working as a host at Applebee's in Tucson, Arizona, without a car, dead broke. And I really just said, well, if he could do it, I could do it, right? I've always played video games. I've always enjoyed it. That was my escape as a child. I always excelled at video games pretty quickly. And so I was able to play it. I started playing these little home games. I started really kind of picking it up really quickly. And I started making good money as a kid. It was really funny because I do remember one time, my brother told my dad he wanted to be a professional poker player. I had just dropped out of college saying, I think I'm going to play poker. I have no other kind of ambition at this point in my life. And my dad just looked at us and said, why the hell did I move to America?
Bijan.
The American dream.
Exactly. Obviously, my brother's one of the winningest poker players in the world. And I like to think that I've done pretty well for myself as well.
100%.
Amazing. So we met you in 2012, Pasha, when you came to the training. Would you tell us how you got to ChoiceCenter?
Yeah, I remember the moment. So a little context of that. My family, we never talked about emotions. We never said I loved you. It just wasn't a thing in our family. And my brother walks into the condo one time and just says, I love you, holds me and starts crying. I said, what the hell is going on? And he's like, you got to go to this course. It's called ChoiceCenter. And I remember distinctly said, there's no shot I'm going to this course. I'm really happy for you. But in that same conversation, I asked about, is there any other courses? Is there business courses? Is there anything that's what I really want to learn? And he said, yes, but you have to go to the first part. And I said, okay, I'll do that. Only to get to the business course. But then obviously, once I got in, the floodgate opened and the rest is history.
And in reality, it's all business courses because it's who you become. So look at you.
I think anything that you do in personal development helps your ultimate goal. You have to be centered. It's like getting the airplane oxygen first. You have to make yourself whole before you can really create anything whole in your life.
It's a good point,
Great way to look at it. Yeah.
What did you discover about yourself in that first training?
What didn't I discover? That is such a loaded question. But if I had to boil it down to some of the most important points, and to give some context there, I came in, you guys know me, but the listeners may not. I came in a very insecure kid. I don't know what I wanted out of life. I knew I had ambition, but I let my emotions get to the best of me. And that resulted in me hiding out from the world. I took a back seat to my life. I took a back seat to creating anything because I don't want to put myself out there to fail. And because of that, I just never tried at all. So one of the biggest things that happened for me is the emotions opened up. I started to feel again because I went numb. That's how I internalized my mother leaving. That's how I internalized my life. So I felt emotion for the first time again. I started to feel happiness and joy and sadness and love and elatedness and all these things. So all the emotions were able to pour out of me. Secondly, and the most important thing is whenever I talk about choice to anyone, I boil it down to this: is it teaches you that you're responsible for everything in your life. And when I made that decision inside of that course for the first time, that I am solely responsible for everything that happens in ramen, I still remember to the voice and what you were wearing when you said something very similar to these words, that if you take responsibility to the point where you are taking responsibility for the 9/11 attacks, because you could have changed your course, your career, and you could have been in the FBI and you could have stopped it. You take that level of responsibility for your life, everything will change. And I took that to heart. I'm getting chills even thinking about it. And so that's what happened. I finally, for the first time in my life, took responsibility for everything in my life. And that is when the results started to change in my life.
Wow, that's so powerful. And what were some of the goals that you set for yourself as you went through?
Really everything. Kudos to you, Robin. I remember very distinctly, we were having a meal somewhere together. I was talking about my life and you said, you don't have a clear 10-year vision. And you didn't say just a vision. You said, like, you need to know the smells of it. You need to understand what the feeling is. You need to understand who's there and what are they wearing? What do they smell? Like, viscerally understand what that vision is. And I applied that to my life 1,000 times over. And so I do remember declaring being a millionaire in there and creating a business. And I do remember being in business mastery with Jorge and declaring that I wanted to create a REIT for real estate. And I remember in that moment, I said it wrong. And people were like, you mean like a REIT, right? Like for this. And I didn't really know what it was. I just thought it sounded really cool, right? I just knew I wanted that. I didn't know how to achieve it. I don't know how to get there at all. And now I can, sit back and I've essentially created that vision for myself. And on top of that, not just business-wise, I never had a healthy relationship before Choice. That helped me heal all of my mother trauma. So that allowed me to get with Jessica and have this beautiful marriage that we have now and to be able to be the father that I am now. And in addition to that, I never had friendships and relationships because I never let anybody into my heart. And so that was also another goal, to create that, because in enrollment, you realize no one really trusts me. And I wanted to create that level of trust with my friends where I say, hey, you got to go. And they just say, okay, I'm going. And so it was like really three-pronged. It was just all of it. It was all of these relationships and for where I wanted to be, where I always knew my ambition could lead me, but I just never knew how to do it.
And what was the thing that had you think, I'm going to leave poker and go for business?
So the transition happened right as I started into Choice already. Like, I went to go get my real estate license so that I could understand the market better. But I had a little bit of an epiphany when I was playing a game in Vegas at some point. Anyone who knows poker knows what a fish is. A fish is someone who can play poker and lose a bunch of money, and all the pros are hoping to get a fish. And so I was sitting there, and I didn't love poker as much as others did. I don't like the emotional ups and downs. I don't like the lifestyle. I like being very disciplined in my life, waking up at a certain time and going to sleep early. So all of these things, I knew I wanted to be a father, and poker is not conducive to being a good father. So I had this little bit of an aha moment, epiphany, when I was playing poker, and, sitting around, I'm like, I hope a fish sits down at my table. And I said, this is dumb. I don't want to hope for a fish to sit down. I want to be able to be the fish if I want to be. I'd rather be the guy who doesn't care that he loses a certain amount, hoping the pros eat him up, rather than a pro waiting for a fish to come. And so that was kind of my funny joke I was saying to my friends, I'd rather be the fish. And so I knew that I needed to take a few steps back away from poker, taking a massive pay cut at that time, and start from the ground level. It's like taking 2 steps back to get slingshotted forward.
Yeah, and let's talk about that. So you make this declaration to make $1 million in 5 years.
Yes.
And how did you get started? What were some of the first things you did? Because I'm sure there's people listening that would love to make the same kind of declaration. So what were some of the first things you did?
I worked my butt off. Honestly, I just worked my butt off. I still very distinctly remembered, I wanted to flip homes. I don't know how to do it. So the first thing and foremost is education. Education is the fundamental thing that you always need, whether it's emotional education, whether it's education in flipping homes. And so what I did is I went and interned for 3 months for a family friend who is in real estate for free. I was like, I will work for free. I don't want any payment. Just teach me what you're doing when you're coming to flipping homes. And that's what I did. And then when I got back to Vegas, I just applied his model. But at the same time, I still kept playing poker. I was so convicted about my vision that everything was, does this action help my 10-year vision? And if it was a no, I wouldn't do it. I mean, I wouldn't go out. I wouldn't spend any money. Jessica was like, hey, let's go to dinner. I was like, I'm not spending $20. I want to roll this over. Just trust me. So it started with education and flipping homes. And then I did it. I just did it and I learned from it. Here's the cool thing about living 10 years from now, about your future self, is that you don't get hung up on short-term variance, which is like return from poker. Like, I didn't make almost any money from that first flip. And some people would be like, well, you spent months of your time making $3,000 net, but you bluff that off in one hand. What are you doing? But when you understand that in 10 years from now, this is a bigger business than poker, that 3K is just an education and it builds on top of it. And that's what happened. And so that's really the most important thing that I would say is that live in that 10-year vision, work yourself backwards. I'm sure, as you guys always preach, but it helps you mitigate these short-term like variance things that you're like, why would I be doing that? So that way you're always committed to moving forward in a big way.
That was about the same time that your brother famously won 18.2 million in a single tournament. And I'm wondering,
Yep.
did that win evoke that monster declaration in you?
That was before. It was 100% before. It was already in motion when I first went through LV122.
Okay,
I remember
got
working with Kareen. And, I remember distinctly I would take any agency fees that I made off of being a broker and I rolled it over into all my flips. But I always knew where I wanted to be in life. I just didn't know how to get there.
You certainly figured it out.
Yep.
I love hearing you share your story, Pasha. Tell us about the first time that you raised capital. What was the project and how much did you raise?
Yeah, so it's funny because I was laughing about it earlier with Kareen and my partners because they always know that every time we do a capital raise, I get a little nervous. But this was almost exactly 3 years ago, actually 3 years ago in 1 month, I raised $700,000. I was freaking out like, all right, I'm putting my reputation online. I'm taking other people's money. These are my friends and family. What if I mess up? Can I even raise $700,000? And lo and behold, really happy to share that I raised it up with the first 7 people I called, basically. And I just said, hey, listen, I don't enjoy being that guy, but at the same time, I love what we're doing and I know what we can do. And so that really started the floodgates. And right after that, we raised up another 600,000. And right after that, we raised up 3.5 million. Right after that, another 2 million. And fast forward to today, we've raised up 50 million and we're about to take on another $9 million raise here soon, which is pretty cool. Very happy to report in those 2 first deals, we've already returned about 150% of their capital back and we have the property still. So yeah, it's been amazing. I'm committed to it. I don't know how I'm going to get it. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm committed to it. I'm going to do it. So let me just put myself out there. And it ended up working out.
What were some of the conversations, though, that you were having with yourself? You're making those calls. You're telling them, I'm not the guy that asked for this, but like, what was the project and how'd you get yourself the courage to make those calls?
It comes down back to what I was talking about before. I was committed to the goal. Some of the conversations were, what if they think something bad about me? What if they think I'm that person now? What if they think that I'm using this relationship because they have a little bit of money? All of those conversations come into place, but I was committed to the goal no matter what. And what I discovered about it was that people would love to invest into something good. And what I've learned throughout the process of it is that people thank me for letting them invest into those deals. When you have a really good product, and I told them I'm putting my own money into it, I wouldn't bring this to you unless I really believed in it, and people believed in me, which was really, really amazing. And now it's been a lot of fun because I know what kind of product we have and I can stand by it. So it's really rewarding. When you know you're a good steward of something, it's really rewarding.
For someone launching their first capital raise, what coaching would you offer them now?
A little bit of the same, go for the goal. But I would say that anything that you are doing, you better have a lot of skin in the game. You got to make sure that this is something that you stand by and you're not in it for all the wrong reasons of just trying to make fees. Because I see that all the time now from other operators that they're just in it to make money. And a lot of those people, because of the interest rate environments right now, are just getting washed out. Make sure you have a really good product. But at the same time, be just committed to your goal. And that anytime you get rejected, it's a learning lesson. It's easy to say that, but in the moments, it feels like a big sting. But what I will tell you is that anytime that I was getting rejected, I remember thinking to myself, it's my way of being. I'm not excited about it, or I'm not able to describe how good this is and why this is better than most. And I would always reframe my way of being to be a little bit more excited, to be a little bit more like, hey, this really is really good. And I got much better results from that. It's your way of being. So if you go in nervous and scared, everyone's going to pick up on it. But if you go in confident, and here's why I'm confident. Well, A, this, B, this, C, this. And also at the same time, I have it structured where I win only when you win. And so it's the way of being that I would really say that you have to shift.
So if you were describing who you were being in those moments, who were you being?
When I was succeeding, I was coming from a place of, hey, I have a great deal and you're going to essentially miss out if you don't invest with me. And it comes from confidence. It doesn't come from cockiness. It comes from, I know exactly that I made all of my deals very investor friendly. I know exactly what we're getting ourselves to. I know who we are at our core and our heart compared to other operators. I was being very confident and excited, and also letting know that there's urgency because it will fill up. We've been uber blessed to get such great feedback and to be able to raise capital the way we have for such a young company. And that is what really happens, is the way of being. It's urgency, it's confidence, but it's also being fully transparent. You let them know the pros and you let them know the cons, so they understand exactly what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah, tell us about Evoke Capital, your company. So how's it evolved from that first raise to the $50 million that you've rated today?
It's been fun. It's been really fun. It's been a journey. We never created a business before, but this is what I love about entrepreneurship. You have a problem. So what happened is me and my partners were buying our own properties for a long time, and we were doing well with them, but we ran out of money. So we found a deal. We're like, we have to buy this deal. That's the problem. Now, how do we do it? We have to raise up capital. How do we raise up capital? Well, we have to syndicate. How the hell do we syndicate? So I go and find someone, just like I had to go intern on how to flip homes, to, hey, can I pick your brain? What lawyer did you use? And you learn that. So then you raise up the capital, then you do that and you learn from that and you keep going. And then we found a second deal, and then we found a third deal. And now we have another employee to help us with these properties. And it just keeps growing into another problem that you have to solve. And fast forward to today, we have about 35 full-time employees, probably another 30 part-time maintenance and caregivers of properties. Just hired our biggest employee for a salary that I wouldn't even imagine when I first started with ChoiceCenter. So it's been really fun tackling one problem after another, but also just always growing and getting better and trying to refine your systems, and also not being too hard on yourself. Like, business is a human element, and we're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. And that's what I tell my team all the time. Like, I'd rather you make a mistake. You're never going to be able to do anything that's going to be so egregious, but let's make a mistake and let's learn from it and let's just get better. But it's been really interesting to think back that we gave ourselves jobs we never intended to. And this company really grew organically, but it's always something that I've always wanted to do. And we're just accelerating from this point.
Yeah, a lot of people struggle with the scaling of a company, and you've gone from just yourself and your partners to 35 full-time, 30 part-time. What would you say are some of the things that you developed as a leader to be able to keep the company moving forward in momentum?
I think there's always got to be someone driving the vision. That's where I come in. That's what I'm good at. One thing that I think we've been really, really blessed with is we genuinely care and love our employees, but we're not perfect. Like, we have down days, but people feel the love. There's always this beautiful quote that I always go back to, is that people quit managers, not the job. And we genuinely care. We want to know what their vision is. We want to know where they want to be in 5 years. Obviously learning this all from, emotional intelligence work. But the scaling part is, again, going back to having the vision and just understanding that you got to make the best decisions for the 5-year future self and the 10-year future self. That what that's meant for myself and my partners is that we eat last. Everything that we make from Evoke, we haven't really made any money from Evoke until just recently, because we kept reinvesting everything into it. We're not making short-term decisions. We're not saying, hey, you know what, let's take that little bit of money payout and just keep it for ourselves and go spend it on whatever vacation or trip, whatever. Let's actually take that money and build out our online system that we have. Let's go hire that other key employee that we're going to need in 2-3 months and be proactive about it. And that has allowed us to always stay ahead of the curve and to be able to get to where we have been in only 3 years. So I have a lot of respect to my partners as well, too, for always letting me have my crazy ideas of us eating last. I think that's really the biggest thing about scaling. Jeff Bezos is obviously a huge inspiration to me, where his company's lost money for almost a decade, but he kept reinvesting. And that's kind of our motto here at Evoke. We're just going to do the right thing for infrastructure and for scalability always.
We had your good friend, David Silverman, LV122, on the podcast a few months ago. And your brother actually enrolled him into ChoiceCenter also. You know that David's not one to give compliments lightly. And he told us he never misses an opportunity to invest with you. And in fact, he said that once you invest with Pasha, you understand what all investor relationships should look like. And when he told us that, I found my vulnerability in that moment, because what a compliment coming from somebody that we all love and admire.
Did he say that on the podcast?
He said that on the pre-chat with us.
Did he?
And we should have had him repeat it on there.
Yeah.
But what is it that you're doing to earn trust and repeat investments like that?
At the end of the day, it's called a limited partner investor in a bunch of other people's deals who have lost my money, who stopped talking to me, who stopped all communication because something's going bad. And so I've really learned what not to do. to be quite frank with you. And I really just always ask myself, and everything that I do with Evoke is, how would I want to be treated? I think what happens is far too often people start to get complacent. People start to think, oh, well, I'll just raise up more money or I'll find other investors. And they get really complacent on the things that made them successful in the first place. And at the end of the day, no matter what, every business is a human to human business. And when you feel as though somebody is taking care of you and really cares, you're going to want to go back. It's the experience of it. I am no different. And anyone can invest in a multitude of different operators and home communities. But I think one of our things that we really do stand out on is we really do care about our investors. We really do care about our tenants. We actually just genuinely care. And it shows. It means extra work for us. It really is. There's a ton of extra work that we do, but that is, I think, a key to success when people feel very taken care of. And so we're always on time. We always just do what we say we're going to do. And I think that the harder thing, at least in my industry, is not getting ahead of ourselves. Real estate is very cyclical. What happens is in an up market, everyone looks like a freaking genius. And when we started, everyone was buying left and right, and we just kept scratching our heads. And one thing I've ever learned in real estate and all the other modalities of real estate that I've been in, same with my partners, is that a deal will probably go wrong. And at some point, no matter what, a deal will go wrong and the market will go against you. And so if a deal has to underwrite and everything has to go right, it's not a deal in the first place. You make money on the buy and people forget that. And so this is what I mean when people get ahead of themselves. So we just do what we say we're going to do. And we do the conservative approach because we know, again, always going back to this, we're going to be around for 20 years. So we can't go buy 2 or 3 crappy deals just to make any fees, which in fact, we don't even make fees when we buy properties. We only make our fees when we do good by our investors. So we have it really structured and incentivized differently. But again, that's like the biggest compliment I can get from someone, especially like David Silverman. So I just treat my investors the way I wanted to be treated in the deals that went south, where the operator just basically took my money and never said a word to me again, which is brutal.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he said you were a fantastic communicator.
Yeah, we try to be.
Weren't you sharing that you've recently hit some milestones for investors?
Yeah. On our first 2 syndication deals that we did 3 years ago that we raised up money for, we always underwrite that we're going to give them all their capital back in 5 years. Our model is we keep the properties forever. People who invest with us want cash flow forever. We give all the cash flows, we give all the distributions off to them first, and then we make our equity splits. So we were able to do it in 3 years. So we did it 2 years ahead of schedule, especially in the market right now, which if you're not familiar with what's happening in the real estate broader market, I would say that there's a big swath of operators who are failing right now and not returning capital and doing capital calls, where we're doing the opposite of returning capital. So it's been pretty amazing because that means we're more seasoned. We've gone full cycle. We've proven our model, even though we've proven the model many times over in our personal portfolios, even before Evoke. As a company, we've shown everyone and given investors capital back and then some.
It's amazing that you've done that. And all this from a kid who didn't go to college, didn't grow up here, was playing poker and taught yourself so much about real estate. It's pretty extraordinary.
Thank you.
And
I had good mentors.
That's always important. That's true. So tell us about your new book. It's right here for anybody who's watching on the YouTube channel. It's called Raising the Stakes. So tell us what Raising the Stakes is all about.
I think Raising the Stakes, to sum it up, is my college tuition written in the book. It's what I learned in my college, and my college was poker. That's really where I grinded, cut my teeth, learned all my lessons, learned a lot about how to apply mindset, because mindset is the most important. It's like 90-10, right? 10 is the effort, 90% of the mindset. So it's what I learned in my poker college that I apply every single day to my life, my relationships, and to my business. So a lot of my scaling, a lot of my ways of being and thinking and calculations of risk all come from my poker background. So I really just wanted to write a book about that knowledge, because every time I go to a social event, especially in real estate, everyone's really kind of wowed by my real estate background. But I also do feel like I have an edge compared to most who don't go to the poker college. So that's why I wanted to write a book about the 8 big mindsets that I take into my every single day life and my business.
You break down powerful ideas in the book like don't get blinded off, manage tilt, fire bullets, all of which are poker terms. How did you discover the interconnectedness of poker strategy to life and business strategy?
That's such a good question. Even when I was younger and before I got in real estate, I always felt like who you were at the poker table was a very good indicator of who you were off the table. I'll give some examples. When you're an aggressive player, you probably have a tendency to be a little bit more aggressive in your thoughts and in your personality subconsciously. If you're a little bit more conservative, you'll play more conservative on the poker table. If you are flamboyant and fun and energetic, you're going to bring it to the poker table. If you're more serious and calculated, you're going to bring that to the table. Humans, at the end of the day, are a set of patterns reinforced over and over and over again. And what I really loved about poker is that you can see people's patterns so easily. When you play enough poker, you can see where people go on tilt. You can see what someone's going to do. And it was really fascinating to really see this time and time again. And so I think one of the things that I excelled at playing poker is I was really good at understanding people's patterns. And that's like, playing the cards you're dealt, right? Maximizing what you're good at. And one was pattern recognition for me. And I'll give examples. There's one good player in Houston, and he was a lawyer, but anytime anyone would put a bad beat on him, he would go completely on tilt and lose a bunch of money because now he's angry, now he's pissed off. And so you find these patterns. Don't get blinded off is something that I saw time and time again. People who are not playing the game, they will just sit there and wait for the perfect hand. If you sit there waiting for the perfect hand, you're going to lose eventually, especially in tournaments. Life could be loosely described as a tournament that you're playing, because you're going to keep giving away chips. And if you're too scared to play anything, you're not going to get yourself in there. And that kind of goes hand in hand with firing bullets. And at some point, when you have all the information, and at some point when you have the read on your opponent, and at some point when you know that this is the right move to make, whether it's in relationships, whether it's friendships, whether it's business, whatever it is, you got to fire a bullet. You got to take a risk. And I know that specifically because when I was a child, I never took a risk up until choice. I didn't take risks whatsoever. But sometimes you just got to put yourself out there and just see what happens and collect the data. And if you're wrong, you're wrong. It doesn't matter. Same with managing tilt. In poker, you have to get really good to be able to put guardrails on yourself about your emotions. Your emotions will control all of your decisions. We make all our decisions in an emotional state, right? You guys taught me that, right? Tony Robbins taught me that. And in poker, you have to really manage your emotions because they'll get to the best of you, even when they're negative emotions or even positive emotions. You just have to check yourself and understand what your emotions are telling you and be able to process them. So a lot of these concepts are in there about what you have to do in business, relationships, friendships, everything.
One of the chapters is about lifetime expected value, and that's such a powerful concept. Can you break that down for the listeners and share how you apply that to family and not just finance?
Sure. I do this with everything in my life, and I feel like a broken record, but it's a vision, the lifetime expected values. Even with my children, in the short term, there might be something they're doing that they shouldn't be doing, and they might cry. They may not like my decision as a father, but I know that in the long term, some short-term pain for like them crying or not getting what they wanted to play with is probably better than having them play with like a pair of scissors. I'd rather deal with the short-term pain of them crying than them hurting themselves in the long run. And that's what you really have to look at. Is this decision the right decision? And in family, like right now, we're making a hard decision. We're going to move out of California. We don't want to, but what's better for our children? Where do I want them to grow up? When you do a lifetime expected value, you're making the right decision for the future, not for today. And in poker, same thing. So in poker, you get stuck in a lot of situations where the math might be 55-45 in your favor, but you have to risk all of your money in front of you. But the math is in your favor, 10% variance over the long run is massive. So every time you put yourself in a 55-45 position, over the long run, you're always going to win. That's how the casinos have been built in Las Vegas. And they might do it on 3% spread or 4% spread. And so it's about putting yourself in a position where the odds are in your favor, but then taking that risk when you know it's the right risk and it's going to play out in your favor in the long run. So that's lifetime expected value, is you doing the right move for the long term.
Are there any parts of this book that you're inspired about what you learned at ChoiceCenter?
A lot of it. There's a ton of crossover there. One of the main things that came to my head right when you asked that is playing the hand you're dealt. When I went through Choice, I really did come as an insecure kid, and I didn't really feel emotions, and I didn't have a college tuition. And some of my insecurities were, well, look at all these other people and look where I was at. And how the hell do I do that? But that is really what it was. I was playing the hand I was dealt. I said, okay, I got to just figure this out. I can do this. I know I can do this. It's going to be a little harder, but I don't care. Let's go. I take responsibility. I am 100% committed to this vision. And now I have the tools to do it. And that's what I did. I started just taking myself on in a bigger way and saying, all right, I'm here. I want to be here. I'll stop comparing myself to other people's 10 years ahead of me, and I'll get incrementally better. And that's what, that's why I coached for 2 years. That's why I did every course I could ever think about at all times, because I just wanted to incrementally get better. I also remember, this just came on top of mind. I remember looking at my life and saying, I really want to dive into business really quickly. Right after LV122, I really want to get into business, but I was like, wow, I have a lot of work I need to do now. So I stayed in the work for 2 years because I said, this will set up the rest of my life forever. I will take 2 years out of the next 70 years of my life to set up my life. And that can be attributed to the lifetime expected value, long-term vision. It's up to me. I got to do the things that I need to do to get to that point. And then the last thing I'll talk about is what really Choice did for me. Poker was my safe place at that point. I could have played poker for the rest of my life and had a decent living. I could have ended up buying a house and all that. But it made me fire bullets into my life. It made me take myself on and take a risk. On men's retreat, I made this declaration that I'm going to go flip my first home. And if I didn't do that men's retreat and go and climb on this big mountain and make a powerful declaration that I'm going to flip my first home, I would have probably lollygagged a little longer. So it's firing that bullet. I had all the information. I had the education. I came back to Vegas. I had all of the tools in play. And then I sat on it for months because I was scared. But then I did men's retreat and I made that declaration. I instantly went and bought my first home, the 3K that I was telling you about.
Wow, that's so cool. I was just enrolling some guys for men's retreat. It's coming up May 1st through 4th. So yeah, what would you say to gentlemen considering going to men's retreat? What's unique about it?
I think for men, we don't have a lot of outlets now to get back to ourselves. I don't want to get too philosophical. The way everything is going in our society is about lowering our masculinity, and it's being labeled as toxic masculinity when in fact most men are just really great men and want to protect and want to love and want to build and want to create. And like everybody, there's a small cohort that makes the other cohort look bad. And so to be able to get in touch with that and say, hey, actually, this is a great thing. This is a wonderful thing. That is one of those things that men's retreat does. And secondly, my personal experience is that if you have something ahead of you that you want to tackle in a major, big way, that is the place to go tackle it. It's men holding men accountable. I'm getting chills even thinking about it. To get to a point where it's like, no, I'm going to go do this and I got your back and you better go do it. But that's a brotherhood. That's also what I've developed in my life as well, too.
Yeah, you have quite a brotherhood of people around you. And your buddy in LV122 in leadership was Bill Perkins, right?
Yep. He was in my small group.
So what difference did that make, having a buddy in leadership that held you accountable? And then how have you guys continued that since?
I think Bill gives the most unsolicited, raw, deep feedback of any human I can ever get. But the thing about Bill, he's always right. He is literally always right. He's always been there for me. He's really close friends with my brother. I see him a few times a year. Like we'll just be in a conversation. He'll just start ripping into me about something. And I'm like, crap, you're right. Thank you for the feedback. And I love that. That's actually loving somebody, in my opinion. When you can just raw tell somebody you're messing up here, or, hey, by the way, I have different life experiences, so I know this and you don't. I've just learned to listen and just get out of my own way. And so it's been wonderful. Yeah, he's been a great mentor of mine.
It's amazing in this circle of men. You brought up men's retreat. Almost everybody in you and your brother's circle were there. And to hear you talking today, how those relationships have unfolded and then how the value has continued to flow amongst you is a remarkable result for us to hear. But what's most exciting is, Pasha, you're so authentic and sincere. And what comes through for me today is what I always remember you from the beginning. You always wanted to know how everybody else was doing. You were always going to make sure everybody got taken care of. And it's still in every one of your conversations. It's the underlying context. You are so caring of your friends, your family, and people around you, people that work with you. And it's in neon. So great to see you at this point in your life.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I do care very, very much. And it's nice to be able to care and show it now when I never be able to used to do that. It's been amazing. I mean, even just having this conversation, because it does bring up memories of who I used to be and where I used to be and to who I am now, right? Like both of you always said, your new floor is here and then your new floor is here. And every single year it keeps growing. And when you look back, you're like, holy crap, how did that happen? So I appreciate it. It's been an amazing journey. And it was Choice that started it for me. 100%, hands down, without a doubt in my mind. It was the catalyst of my life. I would not be where I'm at. No way, in any way, shape, or form. And I'm just not talking about financial success. I'm talking about my wife, my kids, my relationships, all of it. How I feel fulfilled, alive. It's been amazing.
Thank you. It's beautiful to hear you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, it's been amazing to watch this journey. And I'm sure you never thought you'd be writing a book back in 2012 when you were here. Give us a little plug. Where would somebody get it? How are the sales going?
So it's going like better than I thought. I'm already an Amazon bestseller. It hasn't even been released on April 22nd, which is pretty cool. You can go to Amazon, Raising the Stakes. It's on my website, evokecapital.net, or you can go to pashaesfandiary.com. It's there as well. I'm not the greatest marketer for it, but we posted on my IG and things like that. I've been blessed. Like, this goes back to when the enrollment thing happened. Like, I just want people to trust me. I shot out a few text messages and every single person that's done it, and I still have hundreds of people to go through. And so it's been a big blessing. So
congrats on already being a bestseller.
Yes. You're so graciously grateful, Pasha, to everybody. You are really a role model for people that are looking to rise in business, because you tell the truth. You're very transparent about the difficulty of when you got started, and you're so humble with all of this immense success. Wow. Your kids are lucky kids.
Yeah. I'm the lucky one. I will say, just to reflect back, if anyone is listening to this and they are going through the course or thinking about going through the course, and they had the same aspirations or visions for their life that I did, where they wanted to be an entrepreneur, because I remember going back through Choice, everyone has a lot of big aspirations. Even when I meet people in life, they have a lot of aspirations, and this really is a catalyst for that. You have to get your emotions in check and understand what you need to work on. And I promise you, when I say this, and this is not an exaggeration in any way, shape, or form, if I could do it, literally anyone could do it. From who I was before I came in to getting spit out on the other side and be able to create what I have, there's a lot of hard work there. But I promise you, I thought there would never be in a million years I'd be where I'm at today.
It's amazing.
Well, I'll bet Corinne would agree with me that we absolutely knew you'd be in a lot less than a million years exactly where you are. We just didn't know what lane you would choose.
Well, I love that. Thank you. It's always good to have teachers that believe in you.
That we do.
And as we start to wind down our podcast with our guests, we like to ask them a series of EQ quickfire questions. So are you ready for your EQ quickfires, Pasha?
Fire away, Corinne.
We all love your dad, Bijan, and he went through LV122 with you. What's it like to share the Choice experience with a loved one?
Oh, it is the greatest experience that you could ever have, ever. And I understand people's hesitation for it, because I've talked to a lot of people about this. And it was the most healing, deepest work we could have ever done, ever. So my father and I twice, once in Discovery and once in Breakthrough, went on stage, and I'm getting so many chills thinking about it, had the biggest clear off that we've ever had in our lives, had the biggest learnings we've ever had in our life about understanding each other, and facilitated by Sylvia and Chris Lee. And here's what I've always found. You're going to go in with somebody that you love, and when you go through it, no matter what, you're going to fall in love with them 10x more, because you're going to understand them and see them in a whole different light. There's going to be vulnerability there. You're going to understand them. And so I still carry that to this day. So I have a lot of friends in my life, and we'll go do ceremonies and we'll go do personal development work, or we'll sit there and I'll make them get vulnerable with me, because for me, that's the meaning of a real friendship. I want to know how you really are working on the inside, not just the lip service that you give to myself and the persona that you keep. So it is, in my opinion, the biggest crush that you could do for your relationships. Case in point, I live and breathe by it. I took all of my best friends, 6 years after I graduated, all at the same time, all in the same class, and me and Jessica coached it so that we could just all grow together. And it's a stark difference between when they go into when they're out. And the thing to watch, which is really beautiful, is they take that responsibility and they start creating whatever they want in their life in a way that they never used to. Something always got in the way. Some subconscious pattern always got in the way. So if you love your friends, go in with your friends.
Beautiful, Pasha.
Yeah, and I love you talking about your dad and sharing that experience, and it got me a little choked up.
Yeah.
And I know what your relationship is like today. You take your dad on an annual trip. How did you start those trips? What do they mean to you?
I actually started taking those trips with my father because I remember hearing Bill Perkins talk about how he quantified experiences. And then I quantified how many more good years do I have with my father to be able to walk around and run around and be little goofballs. I mean, he's 82 years old. I mean, he's a very young 82-year-old. Like, he's in Mexico right now having fun. He flies internationally a few times a year because he just has a young spirit. So I said, I don't know. I only have 7 or 6 more times to take one more trip with him where he can walk around by himself and it's easy and whatnot. So that's what it was. I quantified it. And then I also know, for me, the way my calendar works and the way that I just fill it up and my go-tos, I'm such a big homebody. If I don't have it in the calendar, I won't do it. So I always look forward to that every single year. Take my father, create memories with each other and experiences with each other. And I just love being around him. He's just a big goofball.
And how do you pick where you go?
I don't pick, he picks. So after
Good
the
for
first
you.
time that I picked, After the first time that I picked, by the time we left the first trip, he had a little note card with 8 different places that he wanted to go, ranking them in order. So he picks at this point.
That's
That is
amazing.
so
Yeah.
great.
I try to do something similar with my mom, and we've been to Machu Picchu most recently. We've been kayaking through Thailand, and yeah, same thing. We're starting to lose how many more years we have.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful.
Yeah, it's pretty special to be able to do that for your parents. I mean, now that I'm a parent, like how cool is it if my kid wants to actually spend time with me when I'm older?
Right.
What a blessing. I just can't even imagine that feeling. So it makes me want to do it more now.
Beautiful. My mom is in a dementia home here in Las Vegas, and so we're not traveling anymore. But I will say when I go to visit her each time, that's what we do. We go on a trip around memory lane, whatever she's focused on that day. And I will say this, never thought I'd come to a positive conversation about this disease, but she is happy. She is joyful. She is just grateful for every meal, for every visitor, for any little gift. She loves flowers and plants. Like you just spent $1 million, no matter what it is. And she's so grateful and happy. The happiest I've seen her in a long time. So there's some poetic justice in life along the way. We're the blessed ones that know to stop and take a look and notice. And listening to you about your dad, it makes me wish my dad was here or my mom could travel. But I also get tremendous joy listening to you, Pasha, and what you do because, wow, you just took it all and you just put it into high gear.
Yes, thank you. I'm a very, very lucky, blessed man. That's for sure.
I have one more question for you about dad. If your dad were in front of you right now, what would you say to him about the risk he took to bring you and Antonio to America?
I've said this to him since I became a father, probably about 5 times or like a handful of times, that he's a real man. He did the hardest thing imaginable. Imagine giving up your whole life, money, security, your wife that you were immensely in love with, knowing that you're going to go into a depression and sadness, breaking up your family. I mean, the immense gratitude. I would not have anything without him. I would not have my kids without him. I wouldn't have met Jessica. I wouldn't have the opportunities here. Because back in Iran right now, the opportunity is slim to none. And he really is the strongest man I know when it comes to making the right decision. I mean, I'm laughing, but just it's absurd to think about what he had to go through. He's a real man. He's a real father. He really did the right thing.
He's a hero.
You two have honored him certainly with what you've used this opportunity to create in your life. So I hope you also connect to that.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's pretty happy at this point. I think from that conversation of why the hell did I move to America to now, he's really happy. And I'm almost certain, because you pick up everything from childhood, that I wanted to get into real estate because of my father. Every time we passed up a house or passed up land, he said, "Ooh, I should have bought that. Ooh, I should have bought that land for $50,000. Ooh, you know how much this would be worth if I bought this house?" And I always thought about it. And I'm pretty sure I took on his dream as a child. And I still to this day, he just gets so giddy anytime I tell him we close another deal. He goes, "Are you at 3,000 lots yet? Are you this yet?" You know, and so I always call him and tell him we close the deal. And he's just so elated. He loves it. He loves everything about real estate. So I'm almost certain that I took on his dream.
Sweet.
Yeah.
You know, you're a new dad and your twins are about a year and a half old, I think now. How has becoming a father to Zoe and Taj transformed you?
This is such a wonderful question. What hasn't it not? A lot of what we talked about today, I've created a 10-year vision. That is my singular goal in life, is that 10-year vision that I always make. That's like the key to my success. Nothing like magical about it. And I made that going through Choice as a young kid with somewhat of an ego and something to prove, chip on my shoulder. And that's what I call an intellect vision. I just had this little aha moment that we just recently talked about, Kareem. And I made these visions with my intellect. This is what I want financially. This is what I want to get. This is what I want out of life. Da, 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 da. And my kids just came in like a wrecking ball, because the love that gets expanded in you is so unreal. You have no idea how much love that you can have. And so just getting into my heart and creating heart-filled visions now is where I need to be. And to give some context there, I've always been a person who knows exactly what he wants. And now that I have my kids here, they're making me question every single thing in my life. Every decision, everything that I thought I wanted are not as important anymore. Things that I would have died on the hill for before I had my children now seem meaningless to me, because all I really want to do is just be with my kids and be with my family and see them smile and tickle them and have them come fake tickle me, And so things where I could see myself living or having a lifestyle that I never thought I would want. All I want to do is just be with my children and have that with my kids. It's making me re-question everything. And this is kind of why I brought up the whole heart-filled vision. I am in an area where things are getting abstract and figuring out what that looks like and then creating it, which is fun.
New generation, new cycle.
Yeah, it's the best. Yeah.
Pasha, you're someone who reads a book or two a week. What's something you've read lately that made you really stop and think?
It wasn't anything that I read. I think it's just learning to be in touch with myself. This is the thing that I've been working on the most in business. It's easy to get detached from your heart unless you're doing some kind of meditation or some kind of practice. And so the thing that I've learned recently is to slow down and give myself self-love and self-compassion. I never really slowed down until my children forced me to realize that I need to start having a lot of more self-compassion for myself, because I was very hard on myself, very vision driven, right? I'm always just so used to being a perfectionist, but the self-compassion is hey, that's okay, you messed up. And to have that translate to my children as well too. It's not something that I read, it's just something I learned recently. You don't want to know what I've been reading lately. It's just all a bit about politics. That's kind of boring,
Okay.
Yeah.
I know you as somebody who is constantly developing himself. What does that look like? What are some of your daily practices? And how do you believe that those contribute to success?
I have a really strong morning routine. I'm a pretty disciplined person in that sense. So as soon as I wake up, I'll go downstairs, make the baby's bottles. I'll go do 50 push-ups, 50 sit-ups with some breath work to bring my body awake. And then I'll meditate and I'll do a self-compassion and a focus on what does my heart want? What does my spiritual self want? What does my body need in the day to get me reconnected with myself and what I'm looking for? After that, I go do my cold plunge. Right after I do my cold plunge, I'll go inside and I'll journal for about 30 minutes. And the journaling has always been my go-to, my staple since I was probably 20 years old. A kid who didn't have an outlet in life. I just journal, and that's where I really get in touch with all my feelings and who I am and what I'm trying to achieve and what I'm looking for. After that, everything is really set up for my day. I live by my calendar, but every time I walk into my work, I will write down the 3 most important things I have to do that day, no matter what. When I get home, I put my phone away. That's something I recently have learned too. And so right as I get home, I will put the phone on the credenza when we first walk in. And when I'm with my family, I'm with my family. I'm present 100%. I don't care who's messaging me or what email I'm getting. Same with the bedroom. I put on the credenza as well. I don't allow my phone inside of bed, which allows deeper conversations with Jessica and just hanging out and all the things. And then I also don't watch TV an hour before I go to bed, and I just read. So
Great practices, Pasha.
yeah, it helps set up my day. And also after the morning routine, I work out every single day. So I'll do either the gym session or yoga. So I work out 5 times a week.
And how do you think that discipline of doing the same things every day, does it add to your success?
I think consistency is so vital. I'll give an example. When I'm working out and I feel very confident in my body and strong in my body, I have a different kind of confidence. And that confidence will exude into energy. It'll exude into, I can get this done. It'll exude into my relationships. It'll exude to having deeper conversations. Those little things add up over time so much, right? It's a compounding effect. And so it's the consistency. It's not letting yourself fall off, but also having the self-compassion. It sets up every single day to have more energy, more mental clarity. Everything that I've learned in my life is putting a guardrail, knowing your weaknesses, knowing your strong suits. For example, I just went on vacation and I know myself. If I eat 1 Oreo, I'm going to eat the whole bag. And I did. I ate the whole bag. But typically I wouldn't. I typically would just never do that at all, ever, because I know if I have 1 bite. It's the guardrails, knowing yourself. Knowing those little subconscious cues, I think, are so important. I'll give an example of one. I think when you really know yourself in a really deep way, you can pinpoint the little thoughts that come in your mind. And so I have a lot of abandonment issues from my mother in the past. And obviously that gets brought up in a marriage or going to therapy. But when I would say the words fuck it in my mind when I was having a fight with Jessica is when I would turn back into my inner child and numb the world out and not let anyone in. So there's this subconscious cue of fuck it, of oh, that's my indicator where instead of pulling away, I need to actually run forward to her. And also I remember back when I was playing poker and I had really bad nights and I was going on tilt, I would say the words fuck it. But when you get to know yourself on that level, you can put guardrails. And so anytime I hear my mind and my subconscious say those 2 words, I instantly stop and say, what's going on? What's my emotions telling me? How do I recenter? How do I refocus? How do I get back in touch with myself?
You are very deeply self-regulated. You really notice yourself and your patterns and your habits and then make new choices. Impressive, Pasha.
Thank you. Again, this is silver lining in growing up an introverted, shy, sensitive child. When I was younger, I was like, why am I different? Now I love it.
We love that you love it.
Yeah, I'd like to ask one other question. It just came to me. Pasha, you've been married for a little more than 10 years now. What are some of the things that you do to keep that marriage thriving?
It's not easy, but it's always having respect for each other and coming together with communication. Really, at the end of the day, it's communication. I think I got really lucky to meet a partner who, as long as I can communicate my actual wants and needs in a powerful, vulnerable way, we will always come to the table for each other. In the big decisions, we've always turned towards each other and we've always been able to do the work. And that, I think, is really the most important, because there are times where I have to confront myself and there's times that Jessica had to confront herself. And we've always done the work. I actually even just journaled about that recently. Like, I'm so grateful that I have a wife who's willing to take herself on and evolve. Like, if there's something confronting the relationship and there's something that's happening, she has always been like, okay, I'm going to tackle this. Where I think in a lot of people who don't have that emotional intelligence, who haven't done the courses, who haven't done the work, will change for 2 weeks. I see that in friends with partners who haven't done the work. They'll change for 2 weeks and they'll go back to old patterns. We just go back to the old patterns. And so we're always willing to interrupt our patterns and work on a new pattern.
What's your EQ superpower?
That's a good one. I mean, the first word that came to my mind was empathy. But I'll tell you, I think the thing that I get the most feedback on is I see all of my friends for their greatness and their highest and best. And I'm relentless on like what I say to them, pushing them and getting them to that point. I would say that in business, I think one of the things that set us apart is we actually care. I can put myself in other people's shoes and understand where they're coming from. It's not one thing. I just, care. You're supposed to be a good person. You're a good person. You can try to fuse both things together, what you want, what you need, with what the other person wants and needs, and come to a middle ground.
Pasha, what's your contract?
I knew you were going to ask me this. I knew you were going to ask me this. And I almost tried to write it down to try to remember what it is. I still have it hanging up, by the way, in my closet. I'll tell you what I do. I change up my contract for what I need and what I want for the time. And I've made a recent declaration that my new contract, my ways of being is courage, strength, and compassion for the next decade. I have that on my 10-year vision board. And that is what I've been telling myself for the last few months, because that is what I'm working on, to show up for my family and to show up for my children. So I don't know my LV122. I know Powerful's in there and I know Leader's in there.
You can get back to us on that. But
I will.
like
I'll
what you've created.
actually, when I go in my closet today, I'll just take a picture and send it to you.
I love the redesign.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think, you evolved after 10 years, after 14 years, you're just a different person. What works for you back then, what works for you now is different. And so all of these things that I've learned in Choice, some of the most powerful things, the way of being. What way of being do I want to show up every single day? And then that becomes a part of me. And then once that happens, I can redesign and create something else.
Pasha, at the end of every episode, our guests create an EQU stretch challenge, something powerful that our listeners can do to stretch themselves in between the episodes. So what challenge would you like to offer, perhaps even based on the principles in Raising the Stakes?
Okay, I got a good one. Let me give some context here. So let's say you're trying to change your diet, or you're trying to lose some weight, or you're trying to get healthier. What I often find is that people try to do too much too fast. For example, you want to lose 10% body fat, or you want to lose 50 pounds or whatever. So everyone thinks that you have to change everything in your lifestyle at once. What I will challenge you to do, if anyone has a goal that they feel like they keep falling off the wagon on, or something seems too hard, you've tried it and doesn't just seem like it's working, go pick the one thing. Go pick that one single thing that's going to bring you the best and highest results, and do that for 90 days. Do that for a quarter. So this is, another choice trick that I learned. Do that one thing. For example, everyone can stop eating after 6 p.m. or 4 hours before you go to bed. Everyone can do that. That's one simple thing that you have to do that can bring a ton of results, because your metabolism slows down when you go to sleep. So you shouldn't have that food inside of your body, and you will see incredible results. And once you have that as your new pattern, why don't you pick the thing that might bring you the biggest results after that? Eliminate all candies or some sugars. It's just one thing, right? But one thing at a time. But again, if we're talking about you're going to live for another 50 years, why not take 2 years to completely change your health and lifestyle habits? It's okay to take time to do that. So that's my challenge.
Love that. So, Pasha, it has been extraordinary and fun to have you with us here today, and to look in the rearview mirror and the present and the future. You speak so eloquently, and it's just been a real pleasure. Is there anything at all that you didn't get a chance to share that you'd love to leave our listeners with?
I think we talked about it, but the beautiful thing about it is once you graduate, you can really create whatever you want. You can honestly create any life that you want. Whatever you can dream of, you can do. And that's the beautiful thing.
That takes us back to dream, declare, and deliver. And you are living proof of what you're saying right now. You're like the poster child. Pasha, on a personal note, it's beautiful to see you enjoying, experiencing, and acknowledging yourself for everything that you create and recreate, and how you are about your wife and your children and the whole family. Your brother, Bijan, you're a role model human. You really are. And it's a pleasure to be with you again.
Thank you. I love you guys. I appreciate it.
And we love you, and congratulations on the book, already a bestseller. We can't wait to get it in hand when they send us the copies that we've ordered on April 22nd. Yeah, final thoughts. If we're still doing EQU in 10 years, what are we going to be celebrating with you on the podcast?
That's a great question. I mean, I am in this transformation stage of I'm reimagining what my vision is. Right? If you asked me this a year ago, I could tell you some other visions, but I think the highest and best fulfilling, loving thing that I could do is I've created something that helps transformation. And so I know how much joy I get out of seeing others transform. I've told you this, Karina, this is why I coached for so long. There's almost nothing that can even compare to seeing your friends and your loved ones and people pop and have a breakthrough in life. I know why you guys do what you do. It's some of the most fulfilling, loving, most incredible work. So fusing really my love of that and business and entrepreneurship in some way, shape, or form to leave a better legacy and help others with all of my life experiences combined with my wife's life experiences combined in some way. That's the greatest vision that I could do. And all along the way, just being the best father I can be.
And getting ready to put your kids in teen leadership.
Yeah, I don't even want to think about that. I want them to be small and pushy and like just obsessed with me right now. Because when they're ready for teen leadership, they're going to have a cell phone and have friends and not want to hang out. I don't even want to think about it.
We're destined to be the greatest dad, and you are. And we love you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pasha, and much continued success to you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Pasha. We love you.
Guys.
Thank you, Pasha. We love you.
New episodes of EQU release every Tuesday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Podbean, and ChoiceCenter.com. See you next week.